I was having a weird hair day, so this is what you get. Hello, it's Echo, just in case you're new here. I was working on a different video. It has been scrapped. It is on Patreon if you want to watch it. It's about AI art, but that's not why we're here. I found this one really cool account that makes really gorgeous handmade watercolors. I know most people do not care about watercolor, but I am going through a watercolor era, so I'm gonna keep doing watercolor stuff because it's what my brain is hyperfixating on. So we're gonna make some watercolors today, specifically out of some old eyeshadow palettes. I have like an entire shoebox full of mica powders, which is the colorant that is used in most paints, but it's also like the primary ingredient in most eyeshadows. So I figured this would be a really good way to practice making watercolors so that I can sell them on my online store eventually. So that's basically what we're doing today. Oh my gosh, I have such predictable taste in eyeshadow palettes though. They're like exactly the same. So what I would really like to do is the next time that I go up north to Washington to bring my mica powders back down with me so that I can make more intentionally pigmented watercolors that I can sell on my website. If you ever feel like you might want to do a craft like this, let's go through the ingredients and tools you may need. So first of all, you're gonna need a pane of glass. I'm going to be trying to use a relatively inexpensive, like $1 picture frame that I got from the dollar store. I am so worried that this is gonna shatter. There's a good chance that it's gonna shatter. So this is what I'm gonna use for now. I'm gonna see how it works. As long as I'm like gentle and careful, maybe it won't be that bad. We're gonna find out. But yeah, a pane of glass, $1 picture frame. You could probably get a better one at a place that is not the dollar store, but that's where I got mine. Next, you're gonna need one of these. This is a palette knife. I have 3 plastic and 1 metal. I am probably mostly going to be using the plastic ones, again, because my glass is very thin and I just don't want to break it. And I feel like this is gonna be a little bit more gentle, but I'm not opposed to using this. Next, you're gonna need something to mold the mixture. So there is a tool that you can specifically buy for this. It's like a glass weight that you can blend all of your ingredients together with. The point of mulling together your ingredients is so that you can make sure you don't have any clumps of powder or any pockets of binder. However, these tools are pretty expensive. They're like $20 if you want to try and buy one on like Amazon. I didn't want to spend that much, so instead I bought this. This is a fermentation weight. So if you wanted to make something like sauerkraut or kimchi, you would take all your ingredients, put them in a mason jar, and then you can set this on top to hold everything down underneath the liquid. I don't fully understand fermentation, but I know that this is what they're used for. One of the main reasons that I got this is because it was $10 for 4, which means that I have 3 more of these. So I'm either gonna try and ferment some foods or I'm gonna give them away on Twitter. We'll see. Follow me on Twitter. I think this will work just as well, maybe even better because it has a bigger flat surface. Next, you're gonna need something to put your watercolor in. I got a bunch of watercolor half pans. This was like $6 on Amazon for like 40. I don't know if I'm gonna need that many, but again, I would love to sell these on my website because they're just like a nice small thing. But those are the basic tools you're gonna need. Now let's go on to ingredients, the things that are actually in the watercolor. A big one you're gonna need is pigment. If you want to intentionally make watercolors, you should probably get mica powders, which you can buy online. All of these things are gonna be listed down below if you want to buy them on Amazon. I have an affiliate link. Mica powders are the colorants that are used in most paints. However, mica powders are also the main ingredient in most eyeshadows, which means you can kind of get away with just using some eyeshadows. It's basically compacted mica powder. It does have some other things, like the shiny ones will have like fish scales or glitter. From what I've read, matte powders work better than glitter powders because of the like extra ingredients that are in them. So I don't know. We're gonna try both. If nothing else, eyeshadow is a great way to practice. It's also a good way to reuse old eye makeup that you're probably not going to use. Everyone has a color in their eyeshadow palette that they just don't touch. I've got like 3 in here, like this gold that is untouched, and then this light one has almost hit pan because I use that for like right underneath my eyebrows all the time. Next, probably one of the most important ingredients, gum arabic, powdered. I just got a little bit because, again, this is mostly like practice. This is a start. This is only 2 ounces, but I think this is a reasonable start. I just want to make a little bit to try it out and see how it goes. Again, I got this on Amazon. Not that Bezos needs my money. So this is the primary binder that is in most watercolors. This is like the main ingredient. This one's real important. Next, vegetable glycerin. Most stores that will have like a pharmacy section will probably have vegetable glycerin. Softens and moisturizes skin. Skin soak and aromatherapy bath. Apparently this is used in skincare. I am bad at skincare, so I know nothing of that. I'm using it for paint. Another ingredient that I've seen a lot of places suggest is honey. I know that honey can be a preservative. I remember seeing a documentary on the Discovery Channel where they found honey in an ancient Egyptian tomb that was still edible. I believe things like honey and salt are natural preservatives, so some places say to add a tablespoon of honey to this. I'm not going to be doing that. The other ingredient that is also very important, which I am again not going to be using because this is practice for me, is distilled water. The water that we drink is full of vitamins and minerals, whereas distilled water has nothing. It's like pure water. You can drink it, but it's just not going to be as beneficial as something like spring water or filtered water. I am going to be using filtered water because I just don't feel like getting distilled water. That's a little too much effort for me for a practice craft. If I ever do make intentional for sale watercolors, I will use distilled water and real mica powders. I don't think I would want to sell these eyeshadow palette watercolors. If I do, they're going to be extremely low priced. So I have taken the glass and I have taped around it just to make sure that the edges aren't going to cut me. But I think that's everything, so I think we can go ahead and start and see how this goes. I put on fake nails so that you can't see my naked fingers. That's OnlyFans content right there. So here we have half a cup of hot water, and then we're gonna do a 1/4 cup of gum arabic and a tablespoon of glycerin. Okay, we're gonna start with a tablespoon of glycerin. It appears that gum arabic is very difficult to dissolve, so I'm gonna stir this for 10 minutes and then strain it twice. And then after it's strained, I'm gonna stick it in the fridge because it needs to sit for an hour, which means that I might need to come back to this video in a few hours. So I'll see you then. Okay, it has been a couple hours. This is the state of my watercolor binder. It's kind of like a syrupy texture. It's like a light syrup. It's still a little bit viscous, and I don't know if it's more viscous than it should be. So hopefully that's around the texture that we're going for. I feel like the ones that I've seen online look a little bit thicker, but this is what we're going with. So we're gonna start by going with this old matte palette. You can kind of see the original imprint on these two because these are the ones that I use the least. Whereas these two I've clearly used a bunch. So we're gonna break it up. Feels weird breaking up eyeshadow. A lot of the watercolors that I'm making right now are going to be very muted, very brown, maybe a little bit warm, because those are the eyeshadow colors that I tend to lean towards. Okay, that's probably good. I'm gonna start by breaking everything up with this metal palette knife because I think the metal knife is gonna work better than the plastic ones, but when it comes to scooping everything together, I'm gonna switch to the plastic. I did not think that there was this much powder in that tiny little palette. Oh, this is what happens when I scrape everything into a pile with the plastic palette knife. And now let's try the metal one. So afraid of scratching the glass. I do like how sturdy the metal one feels. Okay, and then from there we've got to make a little well in the middle, and then we add a tiny little spoonful of our watercolor binder. I'll do tiniest amount because I don't know how much to start with. I'd rather start small. Wow, look at the little bubbles. Look at them roll. I'm starting to feel like I need more than that. Really hope that's not too much, but we're gonna find out. This smells so interesting. It smells very vinegary. Oh, what a beautiful brown. I really should have gotten some paper towels. So now we're gonna try this glass weight and we're gonna see how well it blends everything together. I almost feel like I need a teeny tiny squeegee. Do this one more time with this. Oh, it's so smooth. Okay, that is incredibly smooth. I think it's done. So one downside I can see to using these weights is that the base is very large, which could be a benefit, but also it could be a bad thing because it means you have to scrape off a lot more. So I've realized it takes about 4 spoons of the binder for the size of pan that I am working with. So the next thing I want to do is I want to try one of these shimmery, glittery colors because supposedly they actually don't work really well for watercolor, at least according to a TikTok I saw, and I believe that. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna try one of these next. Maybe I'll try this like gold. This palette is also a lot softer, surprisingly. Like it has like almost a creamy texture more than a powder texture. So I don't know if it's because this eyeshadow was glittery or if it's because it's maybe cheaper or something, but the color had a lot of texture and clumps that I needed to work out. This also ended up filling out a pan and a half, but I might have added a bit more binder to this batch than the other ones. Cleaning the glass and the tools between these colors was really fast because it's all water soluble. So from there, I just started working my way through the eyeshadow palettes. I only recorded 2 more because the process just kind of gets repetitive after a while. A couple tricks I figured out while I was doing this. When you first start mixing the binder and the powder, it's more effective to crush it together and fold it in on itself, rather than just kind of trying to stir it. Second, as much as I would much rather use the plastic palette knife because it feels safer, I found that the metal one does work better. So if you are going to have to choose between plastic and metal, that's the one I'm actually gonna recommend. So I'm gonna finish making the rest of these watercolors off camera and then we will get back to it. So it's been like 6 hours. I took off that wig because it was getting very warm. This is the state of my hair right now. I put what I thought was a purple dye and it made my hair blue. And now it's fading to like gray, which is kind of cool. I kind of just want to wash it out until it becomes fully gray and then I will look like an old lady, a 32-year-old lady. But now that I finished working with these watercolors, I need to let them sit for like 24 hours so that they can fully solidify. So I'm gonna let them cure and we will be back tomorrow to test them out. So I will see you in the future. A good night. Welcome back. It has been about 6 days. I thought these would be able to cure and dry a lot faster, but it ended up taking almost a week for them to reach their full hardness. Every couple days or so, I would go in and feel how soft they were, and they're finally about as hard as I would say chalk, which I think is the texture they're supposed to have. You can see where it dried around the edges and sank in as the moisture evaporated, and also where it slightly pulled away from the edge. Every single one of them sank in, of course, but they are all dry now. This makes me feel like when I mix them, I'll probably use a fair amount less binder, and when I make my binder, I will probably make it a bit thicker. So I used up every color in this eyeshadow palette. So these 3 on the end are all of the glittery color palettes that came out of this, and as you can see, all of them ended up taking 2 pans. This one, I used every color and then also one from a different eyeshadow palette. So now that this is empty, I can finally throw it away. And then I'm probably just gonna make the rest of these for fun. This pack of half pans came with these little magnets, so I went through and I put magnets on the back of all of these. Joe got this cute little Dungeons and Dragons candy tin, and we've been holding onto the tin because it's just such a nice little container, and now I can fill it with watercolors because they're magnetic. Look at that. However, the first thing we need to do is some swatches. So we're gonna start, I think, with the glitter. What I like to do is to put 1 drop of water on top and then just work it around. If it doesn't reconstitute well, then it means I might need to add a little bit more glycerin and maybe some honey. But that doesn't seem to be the worst. I want to see how good I can get it though. So we're gonna make a paper for swatches. Well, that's not great, but I'm reserving judgment because, again, these are the glittery ones. So there's a good chance that these aren't going to work very well. And now the glittery purple. It's a little chunky. I feel like I might have left some of the color in there from the green. So I'm gonna go wash out this brush. And now the gold. I feel like these glittery ones might just be good as like a top coat for the sake of making something kind of shiny. So we're moving on to our first non-shiny color, and it's a very light tan color. So this is a little bit more what I would expect from a watercolor. Brown. Oh, this one's like a little bit purple. Gorgeous. This is one that I'm very interested in. This is the one kind of green color that I have. It's a very gray green. This glittery green is almost more saturated. We're just gonna speed through the rest of these. Wow, wow, wow. There's kids outside.
You're protecting us from those dang kids.
You dang kids, get off my lawn. Okay, there are all the swatches. and they have officially dried and they look pretty good. I'm very happy with this. So now I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna make a simple watercolor piece using some of these colors, and we'll see how they do in an actual piece of artwork. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, I'm gonna give you 500 awesome points. Also, you should probably subscribe. You stayed around this long. It's free. Subscribing is free, and it doesn't really do much other than put more content like this in your feed. Follow and thumbs up. Like the video, leave a comment if there is a craft or piece of art that you would like to see from me. Any questions about the artistic process, I am more than happy to answer, and maybe I will feature your comment in a future video. I have Patreon, Twitter, Throne, because I like stuff. Also, I'm doing fun secret Twitch things, so you should join me on there. Also, I have been doing so much gardening this year that I started a gardening channel. If you want to see all the fun plant things that are happening in the backyard, I would love to show them to you. I think that's all I have for you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you later. Goodbye. I look like the ant version of Megan.